Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin Robbie Billups, and it's time for my top 10 comic books of the week. That's right everybody, thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin Robbie Billups. This is my top 10 comic books of the week for January 15th, 2020. So, out of all the comic books that came out this week, and it was kind of a light week, but there were still some great comic books out there, I've got 10 that I want to highlight for you as potential buys. At number 10, we've got Jessica Jones' Blind Spot, number 1, from Marvel Comics, written by Kelly Thompson with artwork by Mattea de Iulis. Jessica Jones' Blind Spot number 1 was absolutely fantastic, and maybe it's a little bit cheating putting it on the top 10. This book was released digitally like 2 to 3 years ago. It's already got a trade paperback out. It's available. You can pick it up. Anyway, Jessica Jones' Blind Spot number 1 is Kelly Thompson's first issue of Jessica Jones. She took over the character after Brian Michael Bendis recommended her for the role. In fact, even contacted her and requested and asked her to take over this character. She understands the character 100%. Kelly Thompson's a fantastic writer. She's got great work over at Marvel. Her Hawkeye series is absolutely slam bang, fantastic, followed up by the West Coast Avengers. Jessica Jones may be some of her most down-to-earth, grounded, gritty, grimy, crime-oriented work out there. Then you add in the artwork by Mattea. Oh my goodness, this stuff is absolutely fantastic and amazing. It's crisp, it's clean. You've recently seen their work on Invisible Woman. If you like the art there, you're definitely going to love the artwork here. It's solid, it's strong. If you're a fan of Jessica Jones, you'll definitely love it. If you just want to get into Jessica Jones for the first time, you'll definitely love it. It's really cool. Whether you're a fan of the old school comic books or if you're a fan of the Netflix TV show, you're going to love it. At number 9, we have Midnight Vista, written by Elliot Rahal and artwork by Clara Meath, released by Aftershock Comics. Midnight Vista has been absolutely fantastic, a really fun book. It's kind of a personal book from Elliot Rahal. It's about a kid who was abducted by aliens, possibly with his stepfather. Years later, he shows up, but his stepfather doesn't. This book was so great. This is the final issue of Midnight Vista, and because it's the final issue, I'm going to tell you this, I would have ranked this higher in my top 10, but it's got a very abrupt and sudden ending. It seems like nowadays a lot of comic books, they kind of give them a 5-issue arc and we'll see what sales do, right? And then we can maybe extend that out. I don't know if this book is getting extended out. I don't think the sales are there, but they should be. This book was absolutely fantastic. If you're a fan of cool sci-fi stuff, especially old school stuff like the X-Files, you should definitely check out this book. If you're into conspiracy theories, if you're into alien abduction stories, if you're into great sci-fi comic books that are fun, mysterious, quirky, and action-packed, you should read this book. Elliot Rahal is a fantastic writer. This is one of his best works. Clara Meath is a fantastic artist. This is the first work from her that I've checked out, and I really like it. Her very expressive characters, her very interesting perspective and camera angles on those panels, and the composition. Great stuff. Loved it. Sad to see it go. I would love to see this book get developed further. There's a lot of ideas here, and Elliot and Clara have a lot more to say. At number 8, we've got Ghosted in LA, number 7. From writer Sina Grace, artist Siobhan Keenan, and Boombox Studios. Ghosted in LA is a really cool, hip, young, fresh, vibrant-feeling comic book. It's about a young lady who moves to LA to go to college. She gets dumped by her boyfriend, but there's a whole lot more going on there. And the only solace, the only camaraderie that she can find is with this hotel that she finds that's haunted by ghosts from all over LA. And as I mentioned in the weekly comic book review, LA itself is a character in this story. So you got this lady, and you've got other characters now, and you've got the ghosts of this abandoned, derelict almost, but not quite, right? Hotel in LA. And it's really a great book. The whole point of this issue is that ghosts have problems too. We all go through our own form of suffering, and ghosts continue that. Obviously, historically, thematically, ghosts in story and folklore have always represented things like regret and loss, tragedy, right? So that carries over into Ghosted in LA, and it takes and juxtaposes the real-life drama of, I cannot remember the main character's name, but she's the young woman who's in college. It takes her drama with life, and it juxtaposes it against these ghosts and their regrets and everything. And it makes you realize that the only difference between a ghost and a live human is that they're alive. That's the literally only difference. And the point, I guess, being, and one of the things I really think that Scene of Grace really touches very much with a lot of nuance in this book, Ghosted in L.A., this is issue number 7, is that we are ghosts. We're in danger of becoming ghosts. But the difference is that we are alive. So we still have the chance to make those changes. Does that make sense? I love this book. I think it's super, super cool. Highly recommend it. At number 7, we have Undiscovered Country. Number 3, from Image Comics writers Scott Snyder and Charles Soule and artist Giuseppe Camuncoli. So Undiscovered Country's been a bit of an interesting exploration into comic books so far, I would say. 3 issues in, and I've been up and down on this book. Issue 1 made my pick of the week. Issue number 2, I found rather dull and boring. Issue number 3, I liked it. I liked it a lot. Enough to put it at number 7 on the top 10 of the week. I think that if you are struggling with this book like I have been, definitely stick it out. I think Snyder and Soule have a definite plan. The characters become a little bit more enriched to me in this issue. The artwork has been solid throughout the entirety. Camuncoli has been doing an absolutely great job. And usually with his artwork, you see a very clean but very frantic style. This feels very gritty, textured, and well-established and filled with gravity. Does that make sense? But Snyder and Soule, they have a plan for this book. I really feel like issue 2 was clunky. It was kind of over-exposition-y. It was overly verbose. The characters were starting to get muddy. We couldn't make sense of it. And issue number 3, I think they really propel the story into a better direction with the addition of new sci-fi elements to the concept of the story. And the basic concept of the story is that America has boarded and walled itself up from the rest of the world. And it's been like 30-something years, something like that. And now signals come from America and people are checking it out. And it's crazy in there. Somebody today at the shop said, well, I heard it's about like America's now like a ultra-libertarian Mad Max post-apocalyptic crazy dark fantasy world. And I'm like, maybe. It seems that way. There's a lot more to it than that. And that's not a dig at the Libertarian Party or anything like that. But just that was their thing. But yeah, definitely it's like a Mad Max post-apocalyptic crazy world that's going on in America right now. And they're slowly unraveling what's going on. But with the new information in issue 3, I am highly intrigued by this issue, by this concept now. And I really want to see where it goes. So if you've been on the fence like me, I maybe would encourage you to check it out. However, we'll see if it shows up on the top 10 in a month from now. But Undiscovered Country number 3, I really dug it. And at number 6, we have Over the Ropes, number 2, from Mad Cave Studios, written by Jay Sandlin, with artwork by Antonello Cosentino. So Over the Ropes number 2 is a new addition from the Mad Cave Studios. Over the Ropes is a fun book. If you're a fan of professional wrestling, especially stuff from the 90s, you'll really like this. Historically, as far as wrestling goes, it has a lot of terminology. It has a lot of references to wrestling history and just things that the business, like ins on the business, like little things that you'll pick up. Really cool stuff, right? But if you're not into wrestling, I still would encourage you to pick this up. I'll let you know. I know Jay Sandlin just a little bit. I've had him in studio. We talked to him. He's one of my customers at the comic shop I work at. He's a super cool dude. And when he sent me Over the Ropes number 1, I honestly was like, well, I know this guy, so I'm gonna say positive things no matter what, right? It's kind of what we do, right? Find the good and whatever. But I read number 1 and I was literally blown away. I really liked it. Thought it was super solid. It was top 5 that week. This one comes in at number 6 because it's got some really solid competition. But Over the Ropes number 2 was a fantastic second issue, sophomoric. What's the word I was going to say? Not attempt. Over the Ropes number 2 was a great second attempt at this book. It was fantastic. And when I say second attempt, I don't mean like they needed a second try. No, I mean a second issue. It's a great second issue. Anyway, this book is fantastic. It takes that old school wrestling stuff, so fans of wrestling will find a lot of Easter eggs to be into. If you're not a fan of wrestling, you'll just find a great story about a dude trying to achieve his dream. But it's basically about a wrestler who has had an opportunity to overtake the Star and become the new champion, but it wasn't scripted, so it was off script. So now it's got a lot of people kind of after him in the business, but he still has to maintain this popularity and this momentum that he's building up The book is fantastic. It's got great, clean artwork that really conveys the emotional impact of the story on the characters and the action and the wrestling moves. It's very technical. It's really skilled, very skillfully done from both writer and artist and the rest of the company. Fantastic stuff. At number 5, we have The Question, The Deaths of Vic Sage, number 2 from DC Black Label. Writer Jeff Lemire and artist Dennis Cohen, Bill Sienkiewicz, Chris Sotomayor on the coloring. So DC Black Label, you know that I've been loving this Question series. I'm a big fan of The Question, that Denny O'Neil run. We talk about it all the time. And Dylan from Dylan's Comic Book Rants, I'm going to tell you once again, you gotta get a hold of that run. No matter what you have to do it, find it. Read it. You're gonna love it. It's fantastic. Same art team, different writer. It's Jeff Lemire. Jeff Lemire doing a Question book with Dennis Cowan and Bill Sienkiewicz, and now you got Chris Sotomayor doing the artwork. Oh my goodness. I'm sold. I'm down. Liked issue number 1. Loved issue number 2. Issue number 2 was so solid. Seems like we're going to get an idea about the history and the legacy and a metaphysical legacy of The Question, possibly. There's some interesting revelations in this issue, and there's a lot of interesting questions raised. Lots of mystery there. Really did like it. The artwork is gritty. It's tough. The second issue goes into the 1880s, so it takes place 100 years before the original Question run. And it's a great juxtaposition against the 1980s, and it's really cool, and I love the Old West vibe of this book. It was really cool. Like I said, it layered a lot of mystery there. It answered some questions, but it really left a whole lot more open. 2 more issues to go. That's right, Dylan. 4 issues. I had to look that up. 4 issues. But The Question, Deaths of Vic Sage, number 2, very solid, gritty Old Western tale involving a version of The Question. I loved it. At number 4, we have Skulldigger and Skeleton Boy from the world of Black Hammer from Dark Horse Comics, written by Jeff Lemire with artwork by Tansy Sonjic. So Skulldigger and Skeleton Boy is definitely set in the Black Hammer universe, but you don't have to have read any other Black Hammer book before to read this and get into it. It's really cool. I've explained this many times on the live streams, on the weekly comic book review, as basically what if the Punisher found Batman Bruce Wayne right after his parents were killed. He vows vengeance, and Frank Castle is there and takes him in and starts trying to train him as his new apprentice. That's basically what this book is. Black Hammer at times is kind of like a meta commentary on the ages of comic books, from the golden to the silver to the bronze and to the dark and to the modern, right? And this is definitely a dark ages kind of thing. I'm talking about the post-Punisher wave of things like Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns, where things got so gritty and extreme, and into the 90s, stuff like that, right? So it's a really great commentary on stuff like that, but it doesn't go over the top with it. It's a very subtle commentary on that. This book is mostly just a great story about a kid who has suffered a tragedy, and he meets this dude who has suffered many tragedies in his life, and they see something in each other. And it also is a great reflection on the Batman and Robin relationship, albeit set more in a darker timeline. Does that make sense? Really cool stuff. Skulldigger and Skeleton Boy, the artwork is fire. It's great. It's clean. It's simple. It's concise. And it really is very efficient at telling the story and creating atmosphere and mood. And the composition is impeccable. There's one thing that you can always count on from Dark Horse Comics, especially since Dark Horse made its name on some of the best creators out there. We're talking about Frank Miller. We're talking about John Byrne. We're talking about Mike Mignola. So Mike Mignola, his stamp on panel composition, it still lingers today in Dark Horse Comics all around. It's very evident in the Black Hammer stuff, especially this issue. At number 3, we've got Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen, number 7, from DC Comics, written by Matt Fraction, with artwork by Steve Lieber and coloring by Nathan Fairbairn. The time has finally come to really start boosting up the notice. You need to be reading Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen. This is my number 3 pick this week because this book has been fantastic for 6 solid issues, and now here comes issue number 7, and it really continues the same vibe, tone, and momentum of all the previous 6 issues, but it really starts revealing a lot more about the story and mostly about the character Jimmy Olsen. Full confession, I, in my pretty much entire life, have hated Jimmy Olsen. Hated Jimmy Olsen in everything. TV shows, movies, animated series, the comic book. I've never liked Jimmy Olsen. Never. My favorite Jimmy Olsen comic before this, and I know Jack Kirby did it. That's what I'm saying. I'm a huge Jack Kirby fan. Y'all know that. I hate Jimmy Olsen. But I really like the James Robinson issue where Jimmy Olsen died, but it turned out that he faked his death. Anyway, Matt Fraction and company are doing such a fantastic job on Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen. This book is great. It takes those classic goofy comics, and it totally leans into that style. It's absurd. It's ridiculous. The way it's structured, though, is highly intelligent and very well done. This book is structured so meticulously. Everything is like not a damn word or word balloon or panel can be out of place. The whole thing would fall apart. This is a house of cards, and like I said, it's absurd, it's goofy, it's having fun, but it's and I met Matt Fraction last summer at Heroes Con, and he told me, and this is before the book came out, I told him I was excited for it. And he said that this book is a book that does not take itself seriously, but it's a serious book. And it really is. This book is innovative. It's next level comic books, and I have been singing its praises, but I think I haven't been singing them loud enough. I'm not kidding you guys. Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, must read, one of DC's best titles. At number 2, we've got The Low, Low Woods. Number 2, from DC Black Label, Joe Hill presents Hill House Comics, written by Carmen Maria Machado, with artwork by Danny and coloring by Tamara Bonvillain. Straight up, didn't like Low, Low Woods number 1 much at all. Really didn't like it. Thought it was kind of dull, thought it was kind of boring, compared to books like Dollhouse Family and Basketful of Heads. Just wasn't really that into it. I definitely picked up Low, Low Woods, though, number 2, because Adrian Wazzle, who is the editor-in-chief, charitist, and memorist. What? I said that completely wrong. Anyway, one of the big guy over at Vault, he posted that he loved issue number 1. So I was like, maybe I missed something. So I reread issue number 1. And I thought it was decent. I thought it was better. I read issue number 2 of this book. Holy cow. This book was fantastic. I loved it. The whole idea of this book, so it's about these 2 young ladies, and they're growing up in this town. I think they're in Pennsylvania, right? And they're growing up in this town. It's a mining town. Most people don't leave the town. There's this sad, somber, melancholy tone in this book, and it oozes from the page with the script, with the colors, with the line art, with the composition, everything. Issue number 2 was a tour de force in how to do a subtle, slow build horror comic book that's more about the sense of dread of a small town trap. Does that make sense? This book was absolutely fantastic. These 2 women wake up in a movie theater. They have missing time. They don't know what's going on. There's some mysterious stuff going on. That mystery develops further here, but that's not the most enticing thing about this book. This book is built on those characters and the town itself. The town itself is a character, and it's an exceptionally well-done character, and one of the best characters so far that I've read from the Hill House books. Low Woods is great. Machado does a great job building up this sense of dread and suspense. Danny's artwork, Danny has a very gritty, grimy, grindy, ecstatic and frantic type of style. It's dirty. It feels dirty. This one, it takes that, but it kind of almost loosens it up a little bit, but it fills it with this melancholy, this dread, this somber atmosphere, and it's absolutely perfection. And Bonvillain's coloring, her coloring is absolutely splendid on this book. Low Woods number 2 completely sold me on this book. Cannot wait to see what's going to happen in issue number 3. And at number 1, The Red Mother, number 2, from Boom Studios, written by Jeremy Hahn, with artwork by Danny Luckert. The Red Mother, number 1, blew me away. And issue number 2 blew me away as well. Everything I loved about issue number 1, it was present and obvious and right in the center of issue number 2. The mystery, the characterization, the pacing, it's perfect pitch, perfect pacing. The writing, the art, the coloring, everything. And Luckert is also the colorist, I believe. Yes, Ed Dukeshire, by the way, is the letterer. It all works in conjunction and makes such it's a very brisk comic book read. It's a very easy read. You're going to read this in like 5 minutes or less, right? But the impact is still going to stay there, at least for me. It's a horror book, but it's very subtle and it's really built up on this character, her experience, her trauma, what's going on. She was attacked, possibly. Her boyfriend is missing now, who was there present in the attack. Maybe he's dead. Maybe he's just missing. Where is he? We don't know. There's something supernatural going on. She lost an eye. She now has a prosthetic eye. but she sees these cloudy red visions. She sees this vision of this crazy, creepy-ass MFer right there. You know what I'm saying? This book is great. If you love horror, I mentioned before, like a week or two ago on the Weekly Comic Book Review, maybe on this show right here, that we are in a new renaissance of horror in comic books. And we really legitimately are. Fantastic stuff. The Red Mother is one at the top. And someone made a comment on, I think, Instagram. You can follow us on Instagram. I rarely mention it, but we are on Instagram. It's really my personal Instagram account. It's just called Pop Culture Philosophers. Anyway, the Red Mother is absolutely amazing. We are right there in a new renaissance of horror comic books. And it is exceptional to see this unfold. Red Mother is great. It's scary, it's creepy, it's atmospheric, it's got a slow, suspenseful, tension-filled build going up into it. But the characterization is strong. The after effects of the attack on this woman, coupled with what's going on right now, isolation she feels from her friends, from her community, from her career, from her life, from her former life. And man, this book really hits me. It really hits me hard, but it's just such a masterfully done comic book. It's efficient. It gets right to the point. It doesn't waste space. This is how you make a story in a comic book. So anyway, that's my top 10 comic books of the week. My top 10 recommendations, my favorites. What are your favorites? What are your top 10? Let me know in the comments down below. I would love to see y'all start listing your top 5 or your top 3 or your top 10 comic books. I really want to keep this conversation going, recommend some books, and get a dialogue going. And we can all share our love of story and what it means to us. And I think that's just absolutely amazing. We thank you so much for checking out the video and the support of this channel. We are seeing some really substantial growth right now, at least in our terms, and we are just overwhelmed by it, y'all. Overwhelmed. So thank you so much. Please do like, share, and subscribe. And join us over at popculturephilosophers.com for podcasts and a whole lot more. I've been Rockin Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading. On the shores of probability, you'll probably find me looking hard to see. Memories riding in the waves of capabilities, filling me with ecstasy, breathing in the salty breeze, bittersweet abundances of love, life, and liberty. For it is the ocean behind me, commotion, erosion in my feet, and the shadows approaching. This notion's atrocious, this motion's corrosive. Suppose that this ghost will send to break away my focus, but I can have it, so I dive and submerge. Fight the urge to lose my nerve, give in and convert. The version that they furnace burns my insides like a furnace. Now I'm earnest with intent to emerge with new purpose. Now I rise as the bearer of light. They think I fear the darkness, that I'm terrified of night. But with the false predictions, now they've gone mad on me. Still I hit it with precision like I'm Don Mattingly.